Your body was designed to heal. That's not a motivational statement. It's a biological fact. And every cell in your body is oriented toward homeostasis, repair, and regeneration. That intelligence is not gone. It has not abandoned you. It has simply buried under the layers of interference that have never been properly identified and addressed. The resiliency method exists to uncover those layers, to remove them in the right sequence, and restore the conditions your body needs to do what it was always designed to do.
Welcome to the Resiliency Method, the truth about healing. I'm Dr. Erika, and we are here to uncover the root causes keeping you stuck. Together, we'll restore your energy, your focus, and your resiliency so you can finally heal, regenerate, and feel truly alive again.
You've seen the specialists, you've tried the protocols, you ran the labs, then someone looked at your results and said everything appeared to be normal, or just suggested that your symptoms might be psychological. Well, welcome to the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. I'm Dr. Erika. The better question we're asking today is what if the problem was never that your body couldn't heal, but that nothing was teaching it how? And maybe you were sticking too close to the surface with your healing approaches outside the conventional medicine. Well, today we're breaking down why conventional medicine and even functional medicine at times just simply manages symptoms instead of asking why they exist, and why some of these approaches and simple bit stacking can still feed dysfunction when it's layered onto an already overwhelmed system. We're going to explore the hidden layers of standard testing misses, stealth pathogens, toxic load, mold exposure, improperly healed scar tissue, and why they block your body's natural healing intelligence. And we're unpacking the complete healing cycle, which many people never arrive to, and how that works and why clearing the terrain isn't enough, but is crucial. Then you need to go to restoring organ, tissue, and gland function, and then ultimately get to the deepest levels of detox in the body once you've done that. Welcome to the podcast today. We're going to go in a little bit more depth on how the resiliency method works, why you've been told you're a mystery case, and we're going to explain why neither of these are actually the truth. But there's things that you're missing and areas where you may not have gone deep enough yet. So join us. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance that you've already tried a lot of things. And maybe you've done the rounds, the specialists, you've seen the functional medicine doctors, the naturopaths, the elimination of the diets. You tried the different supplement protocols, and maybe you've had labs run up the wazoo, tests ordered, and you still walked out of every appointment without a real answer, or even more specifically, a real result. And maybe someone at some point told you that everything looked normal, or worse, maybe it suggested it was all in your head. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And more importantly, you are not broken. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you today is a fundamentally different way of understanding why your body has been struggling. And more importantly, a method that has helped people finally move through the wall that every other approach has failed to get past. Now, this is the story of the resiliency method, and it starts with a simple but radical question. What if the problem was never that your body couldn't heal, but nothing was teaching it how? Let's talk about what most healing approaches actually do. Because once you understand this, everything else I'm going to share with you will make a lot more sense. So conventional medicine is brilliant at emergencies. If you break a bone or you have a heart attack or you need surgery, modern medical system is extraordinary. But when it comes to chronic or complex health problems, fatigue, brain fog, autoimmune conditions, digestive dysfunction, hormonal chaos, it tends to be default to one thing, and that's management. Managing the symptoms that suppress the inflammation, balance the hormones, keep the numbers in range, take this medication long term. And the unspoken assumption is that the model is that your body has failed and it needs some kind of external agent to do what it can no longer do on its own. And you become dependent on the intervention. The intervention becomes the crutch. And the root cause, Well, it never really gets touched. Now, functional medicine and natural medicine have tried to improve on this. And in some ways, they have. They look at more factors, they run more comprehensive labs, they care about diet, lifestyle, toxins, gut health, all those things. And that's a step forward. But here's where even the best natural and functional practitioners often get stuck. They're still thinking in terms of fixing deficiencies and correcting lab values. They see low B vitamins, so they give you a B vitamin. They see a high cortisol, so they give you some kind of an adaptogen. They see gut dysbiosis, so they give you probiotics. And again, this might help a little, but it's still a protocol layered on top of dysfunction. And it's still asking the question, what can we add to make this number better? Instead of asking, why is this number off in the first place? And what's stopping the body from regulating on its own? The result, well, many people start walking around with bags full of supplements and they're following increasingly restrictive diets. They're seeing practitioner after practitioner, and it's still not getting well. And that's not a patient failure, that's a model failure. And that's exactly the gap that the resiliency method was designed to fill. So here's the core principle that sets the resiliency method apart from everything else out there. And I want you to really sit with this because it changes everything. We don't treat conditions, we expand the body's capacity to heal. And that's not a semantic difference. It's a complete philosophical overhaul of what healing even means. And when we're treating a condition, well, we're fighting something, we're suppressing something, we're correcting something. And the practitioner is doing, the heavy lifting, and the body is sort of along for the ride, right? Well, when we're expanding healing capacity, that's different. We are training your biology and we're restoring the intelligence that was already inside of you, your original design, your original programming. The intelligence your body was born with, really, to regulate, repair, and renew itself. And the body does the heavy lifting. We just remove what's blocking it and give it the right signals in the right order and at the right time. Now, this is the shift from force to flow, from restriction to expansion. And here's why that matters so much practically. Most people who come to us have been through the ringer. They've tried everything, and in many cases, the approaches that they've tried have actually made things harder. Not because those practitioners were bad people or ill intentioned, but it's really because adding more and more interventions to an already overwhelmed system can actually deepen dysfunction rather than resolve it. So we call it feeding the dysfunction. And it's one of the most common reasons people hit a plateau or get worse despite doing all the right things on paper. Well, the resiliency method works differently. Rather than piling on protocols, we take a step back and we ask, what's the sequence? What needs to happen first? What does the specific body need at the specific moment and in the precise right dose? Because sequencing, it really truly matters. And if you try to repair a house that still has a gas leak, you're not going to get very far. So the order of operations isn't just important, it's really everything. And every person who walks through our doors gets a customized assessment of that order. Not a one size fits all protocol, not a generic detox plan, a strategy built specifically around the unique combination of stressors that created your specific situation. So let's talk about what we're actually uncovering when we assess someone through their resiliency method. Because this is where things get really eye opening for most people. Standard medical tests, even good functional medicine panels, often miss what we call the hidden layers of dysfunction. Now, these are the true root causes that have been quietly blocking your body's natural healing intelligence for months, years, sometimes decades. And here's the thing. When these layers are missed, the practitioner doesn't always admit that they're stumped. Instead, patients get labeled. They become a difficult case, they become a mystery case, or worst of all, they're told that their symptoms are emotional or that it's all in their head. And that label is one of the most devastating things a suffering person can hear. And it's almost never true. Let me walk you through what we look for. The real cause is that when identified and addressed in the right sequence, allow the body to finally start healing. Not just the obvious ones. We're talking wheat, gluten, dairy, corn, soy, and a host of other reactive foods that can create a low grade inflammatory state in the body that flies completely under the radar of conventional testing. And when the immune system is constantly reacting to what you eat, well, it can't really allocate resources to repair. It's perpetually on the defense because you eat every day. But unlike other practitioners and other methodologies, we don't believe you should innately react to your food. So our process involves actually reversing those food sensitivities by healing the organs, tissues, and glands that are deficient and are at the source of the problem. And that's not so you can eat crap food again, but it does mean your immune system and your nervous system are operating at a different level. Parasites, co-infections from tick-borne illnesses like Lyme, organisms picked up from food, water, or even household pets. Most of these pathogens are extremely good at hiding, and they can evade standard testing, go dormant, or create a low-grade inflammatory chronic burden on the immune system and nervous system. And that's what most practitioners would never connect to your fatigue, your brain fog, your hormonal issues. But the connection is real. So we live in a world that is more chemically complex than any other point in human history. Vaccine ingredients, heavy metals, mercury, lead, aluminum, BPA, plastics, pesticides, herbicides in our food, industrial chemicals in our water, our air, and our homes. These accumulate in the body's tissues and organs over time, and they create a burden that the liver, kidneys, and lymphatic system were simply not designed to handle at modern volumes. Massively underestimated as a driver of chronic illness is mold exposure. And we're talking about mold from water, damaged buildings, damp environments, even certain foods can create a profound inflammatory response, particularly in people with certain genetic susceptibilities that make it harder to clear mycotoxins from your body. Improperly healed tissue from surgeries, accidents, or old injuries can create interference patterns in the body, disrupting energy flow, nerve signaling, and even organ function in ways that seem completely unrelated to the original injury. A C section scar, a childhood surgery, a car accident from 20 years ago, these things leave a physiological fingerprint. Now we're swimming in a sea of electromagnetic radiation that didn't exist 50 years ago. Cell phones, wireless devices, smart meters, medical radiation from procedures and diagnostics. A chronic EMF exposure is a genuine physiological stressor that can impair cellular repair and sleep architecture and nervous system regulation. And we acknowledge that these things are inevitably in our environments. So our approach doesn't involve you hiding under a protective blanket all day or being afraid. It's improving the status of your nervous system so you can tolerate them better. This is not the same as saying it's all in your head. Emotional stress and trauma have measurable physiological consequences on the nervous system, the immune system, the endocrine system, the gut. Unresolved family dynamics, chronic life pressure, and especially early life trauma can certainly fundamentally alter the body's stress response in ways that block healing at every other level. Almost everyone we see has a unique combination of these causes. It's rarely just one thing. And it's the specific combination and the specific sequence in which they need to be addressed that determines how your healing unfolds and when physiological tissue in the nervous system is compromised, living the human experience of emotional ups and downs in life, well, it becomes even more difficult to bear. Now, many people arrive believing their condition is simply genetic, that their DNA has handed them some sort of fate, and that genetic testing will finally give them the answers they've been searching for. And while genetic insight can be a useful piece of the puzzle, it's worth understanding what most tests actually tell you and what they don't. A standard genetic or SNP test reveals your code, the sequence itself. But a gene being present in your DNA is not the same as that gene actively expressing. For that, you need testing capability of detecting mRNA proteins, and that's the downstream signal that a gene has actually been switched on. That distinction matters clinically because there may be a window of therapeutic value in addressing an actively expressing gene. But here's the deeper problem. Even knowing which genes are expressing doesn't tell you why. And without the why, well, you're still guessing. Whether a gene is dormant in your code or actively firing, the real question really is, and is always the same. What's the root stressor, the pathogen, the toxin, the mycotoxin created in the terrain that allowed that gene to express itself in the first place? And chasing the genetic signal without addressing the terrain is still a medicinal approach, just with a slightly more sophisticated label. And building a supplement protocol around your SNP data alone is ultimately still throwing spaghetti at the wall. A bit more refined, perhaps, but still missing the target. So, true healing means going after the organ, tissue, or gland for which there may be a predisposed genetic weakness. And that has been disrupted at the root. And the restoring the conditions under which that gene never needed to express at all. Now, I want to spend some real time on this next piece because it is one of the most misunderstood and most powerful aspects of what we do. And once it clicks for you, you're going to look at every supplement bottle you own in a completely different way. Most supplements on the market today are synthetic. They are single molecules isolated in a laboratory with the intention of replicating something that exists in nature. Sound familiar? That's how pharmaceuticals are made. And most people evaluate them the same way. How many milligrams? What percentage of my daily value? If one capsule has 1,000 IUs, well, surely 5 capsules must be 5 times better. Well, here's the problem with that logic. Your body is not a chemistry beaker. It does not absorb isolated synthetic molecules the way it absorbs nutrients found in nature. And this is not a fringe opinion. It's basic biochemistry. Take vitamin C. Most people think of vitamin C as ascorbic acid, and that's what's in nearly every supplement on the drugstore shelves. But vitamin C in nature isn't just ascorbic acid. It's an entire complex packed with bioflavonoids, antioxidant compounds, enzymes, and coenzymes that make it all work together. It's like a symphony, and ascorbic acid alone is not the symphony. It's really just one instrument. And it's missing the entire rest of the orchestra. And without the orchestra, the music just doesn't play properly. Or consider B vitamins. So you might buy a B12 supplement or you get an injection to boost your energy. Some of the cheaper options on the shelf are made from chemical derivatives, compounds you definitely wouldn't want to knowingly put in your body. Even the more refined forms are still isolated molecules missing the full B complex. That exists in nature and the interlocking network of B vitamins that work in relationship to each other. And the result? Well, you can take enormous doses of these synthetic nutrients and your body may barely register them because it's not designed to absorb free-floating isolated molecules. It's designed to absorb food. Are you tired of treatments, protocols, and gurus who promise results but don't deliver? You're not alone. For years, I struggled with my own long-term illness, and I know how frustrating it feels when nothing seems to work. That's why I developed the Resiliency Method. It's a science-backed approach to combine the best of Western and ancient medicines to restore your body's natural intelligence. Patient after patient has discovered what's possible, living stronger, brighter, and more spiritually connected than ever before. Whether you're facing autoimmune issues, hormonal imbalances, weight struggles, or just feeling stuck, you don't need another quick fix. You need a clear path forward. Take the first step with a discovery call at drerikaonline.com/discovery. That's DRERIKA online.com/discovery. or dive deeper with a full initial consultation at drericaonline.com/initial consultation, because your health, your clarity, and your freedom cannot wait. Now, when we talk about whole food supplementation and the resiliency method, we are not talking about what's on your plate. We're talking about something your body desperately needs that most modern human diets simply are not getting from their diet anymore. Now, think about what humans ate for most of the history. They weren't just eating the muscle of the animal. They were eating the whole animal: organs, glands, connective tissue, livers, heart, kidneys, adrenal glands. These are some of the most nutrient dense substances that exist in the natural world. And for centuries, they were a staple of the human diet. And here's why that matters. The most nutrient dense parts of any animal, the organs and glands and tissues, are also the parts that contain the precise cofactors, coenzymes, and the biological complexity that allow the body to actually use those nutrients. So, when you eat adrenal tissue, for example, you're not just getting vitamin C, you're getting vitamin C the way nature packaged it, along with everything the body needs to receive it and put it to work. But most of us are not eating adrenal glands. We're eating muscle meat, steaks, chicken breasts, fish fillets, which are actually the least nutrient dense parts of the animal. And our grandparents ate organ meats routinely. But that tradition has largely disappeared. And the nutritional gap left behind is enormous. Whole food supplements bridge that gap, and they concentrate the nutrition from organs, glands, and tissues and specific plants, things that the body is designed to recognize and absorb, into a form that delivers what nature intended without asking you to sit down to a plate of liver and onions. I can't do it. And quite frankly, if you're doing it today, I'd be careful, because the food supply is so susceptible and so, exposed. These animals are exposed to some of the same toxins we are. So, you really want to make sure that you're sourcing that really well if you are doing that and brave enough to do it. I admittedly can't do it. But here's where the resiliency method goes even further into something truly extraordinary in the world of healing. And I want to explain this carefully because it's one of the most powerful tools that we have. It's called a protomorphogen. You'll hear us refer to them as PMGs for short, because that's a big word. Here's the concept, though, of how this works. Every organ, tissue, and gland in your body has a specific cellular blueprint, a kind of architectural template encoded at the cellular level that guides how that particular tissue repairs, regenerates, and how it maintains itself. When that organ is healthy and communicating properly, it follows that blueprint. Cells know what they're supposed to build, but when an organ, tissue, or gland is under chronic stress from all the things we just talked about, when it's been bombarded by toxins, infections, nutritional deficiencies, emotional strain for months or years, something breaks down in that cellular communication. And the tissue can't rebuild properly. It can't repair efficiently. And over time, the organ or the tissue gland, it degrades and its function diminishes. And you begin to experience symptoms associated with that organ, tissue, or gland failure. Now, protomorphogens are unique organ, tissue, gland specific extracts that contain the cellular components of a specific tissue, essentially providing the body with the actual biological blueprint material for that function of that organ. And when you give the body a PMG, for example, for like the adrenal glands, you're literally providing adrenal cellular material that the body can use to recognize, target, and repair its own adrenal tissue. Same with the liver, same with the thyroid, heart, the kidney. There are PMGs specifically to virtually every major organ and gland in the body. And this is not a supplement that corrects a lab value. This is a supplement that helps the body rebuild the actual tissue responsible for creating those lab values in the first place. So let me make that concrete. If your labs show poor thyroid function, the conventional approach, even the natural or functional medicine approach, at its most simple core, is designed to give you the thyroid hormone or support the nutrients. That can help you feel better temporarily. But what we want to know is why is the thyroid struggling in the first place? What has damaged or suppressed this gland's ability to produce on its own? And we can give the body what it needs to actually rebuild and restore that gland. That's why a thyroid PMG does. That's what it does. It's not a hormone, it's not a band aid, it's targeted cellular nutrition that speaks directly to the thyroid, giving the body the raw biological material and signaling its needs to repair the tissue itself. And here's the profound downstream effect of that approach. When you actually restore the organ or the gland, you don't just resolve the thyroid marker, you resolve all the symptoms and the secondary dysfunction that were downstream of that organ, tissue, or gland's failure. Energy metabolism, temperature regulation, hair loss, mood, all of it begins to improve because the root system that was supposed to be regulating all of it is finally functioning again. Now, this is a completely different category of a result than managing a lab number. This brings us to what we call the complete healing cycle. And this is the framework that ties everything together. Every healing cycle has a start point, a midpoint, and an end point. And your body needs to be guided through each of those phases in the right order. In the early phases, we're primarily working on clearance, removing the toxic load, addressing the pathogens, calming the reactive foods, reducing the interference patterns that have been blocking the body's communication systems. Now, you can think of this as the clearing the terrain. And in the middle phases, we're beginning to restore organ and glandular function using whole food concentrates and PMGs to give specific tissues the nutrient and the cellular blueprint material that they need to begin rebuilding. This is where the body starts to come back online. And in the later phases, we're consolidating those gains, ensuring that the organs are not just functioning, but optimally supported, that the body's regulatory systems are self sustaining, and that we are systematically reducing dependency on supplements because the biology is now doing its own job again. Now, jumping straight to the repair before clearance is like trying to rebuild a house that still has a gas leak. The order of operations isn't optional, it's everything. Our goal is never to create lifelong supplement dependency. It is the opposite, to use these tools with precision and purpose for the right duration so that over time your body no longer needs the support it once did. Because the organ has actually healed and the tissue has been rebuilt and the gland is communicating again. And your biology, trained and restored, is doing what it was always designed to do. So let me paint a picture of what this looks like in practice, because I think most powerful way to understand the resiliency method is to understand the journey of the people it's designed for. Now, most of our patients come to us after years of searching. They've seen the neurologist, the rheumatologist, the gastroenterologist. They've gone to the functional medicine doctor. They've hired the health coach and followed the protocol. They've done the cleanses, the elimination diets, the infrared saunas, the supplements by the handful, and injected the peptides every week. And they're just exhausted, not just physically, though they absolutely are, but emotionally. And they're exhausted by the hope and disappointment cycle. And they're exhausted by being told they're fine when they know they're really not. And exhausted by their own willpower, failing them in a system that keeps telling them to try harder. And when they come to us, the first thing we do is listen and really listen to the full picture of their health story. Then we assess their specific combination of hidden stressors through our comprehensive evaluation process. And for many of them, it's the first time anyone has looked at that full picture and said, here is why this has been so hard. And here's what's actually been happening in your body. And here's the path forward. We don't just promise overnight miracles. Genuine healing, the kind that lasts, takes time and commitment. But we do promises that we are working with your body's natural intelligence, not against it. We're not suppressing and we're not managing. We're clearing and restoring. And as we clear the layers, the toxins, the pathogens, the emotional residue, the reactive foods, the scar tissue interference, something begins to shift. Symptoms start to decrease, energy starts to return, clarity comes back. And then, as those layers are cleared, we move into the deeper work, the actual repair and restoration of the organs, the tissues, and the glands that have been under stress for so long. That is the arc of healing through the resiliency method. Not a straight line. Healing rarely is a straight line, but a genuine progressive return to the body's natural state of vitality. Now, I want to close with something that I think is the most important idea I've shared today. Your body was designed to heal. That's not a motivational statement. It's a biological fact, and every cell in your body is oriented toward homeostasis, repair, and regeneration. That intelligence is not gone. It has not abandoned you. It has simply buried under the layers of interference that have never been properly identified and addressed. The resiliency method exists to uncover those layers, to remove them in the right sequence, and restore the conditions your body needs to do what it was always designed to do. And if you've been told you're a difficult case, a mystery case, or that your symptoms are psychosomatic, well, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not a mystery. You are a person with a specific, identifiable combination of hidden stressors that standard approaches haven't found yet, and that is solvable. And if you've tried everything and nothing else has worked, it doesn't mean healing is impossible for you. It just means that you haven't found the right sequence yet. And it means the true root of why nothing else has worked hasn't been uncovered yet. It means the right questions haven't been asked yet. We have built the resiliency method to be the answer to that problem, not by adding more force, not by throwing more protocols at a tired system, but by training your biology systematically, strategically, and in alignment with your body's own innate intelligence to heal. You deserve to get well, and the path to that is not more management. It's true restoration. So if what you've heard today resonates with you, I really encourage you to take the next step forward and reach out. And let's learn whether you're a candidate for the resiliency method. Because the fact that nothing else has worked isn't the end of the story. For many of our patients, it turns out to be just the beginning. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, keep moving toward healing and know that the capacity to do so truly lives inside of you.
Thanks for tuning into the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. If this episode spoke to you, follow, share, and leave us a review. Are you ready to go deeper? Book your discovery call now at drerikaonline.com/discovery and take your first step today.